Steve, so it sounds like you guys just kind of did some light shooting today. What was kind of the thought process with that?
Yeah, well, with yesterday off, the guys came in today. They're here now. Some guys are getting shots up. Younger guys are scrimmaging, and it's kind of a maintenance day.
Obviously, when you guys signed Porter last summer, the big question was, can he stay healthy? You know, how happy have you been with just his health this season and his ability to stay on the floor?
It's been huge. You know, he's been injured most of the last couple of years, and when we signed him, he came right to the facility, midsummer, whenever it was that he signed. I think it was, maybe early August, and he was here for a good month or 6 weeks before camp started, just working with our training staff. And, Otto's ability to stay healthy has been really important because he serves an important role on this team. Jana?
How'd you guys kind of wait to find out who your opponent is? Did you guys get a head start on scouting, or what's kind of the focus during this time?
Yeah, I mean we're getting ready for both teams. We've had our advanced scout watching that series. We've got one team of coaches working on Memphis and another team working on Minnesota. Today we'll spend time on Memphis simply because if they win tonight, we have a game on Sunday. And so we have to put in the work in case Memphis wins. And if Minnesota wins tonight, then, obviously this series shifts to Tuesday and we don't know who we're going to play. Then we would, kind of go back to Minnesota. And it's kind of strange. I don't know that we've ever been in this position since I've been here where, you don't have much time and you're scouting two different teams. So, but our first thought has to be we have to be ready to go to Memphis tomorrow and play a game at 2:30. So that means our staff has to at least, prepare a game plan that we could present to the team tomorrow before we would fly. And then we got to be ready to pivot. So, whatever happens. We got to be prepared for either scenario.
Steve, aside from Andre, is everyone else pretty much healthy? I mean, you can be at this stage of the season.
Yes.
But Jordan's not really a little nicked up and beat up a little bit in that last series, but he seems to be okay.
Yeah, he's fine.
In preparing for a potential Memphis series, obviously you don't know who you're playing at, but how important is Gary Payton's defensive abilities in potentially guarding someone like Ja?
Well, Gary's important to us regardless of our opponent. I mean, he's just, such a dynamic defender and a very unique scorer. Just the way he plays, his ability to score around the rim, to be the pick-and-roll dive man, to also step out and shoot threes like he did against Denver in the clinching game. So Gary's a big part of our plans regardless of our opponent.
Regardless of your opponent as well, just what are things that you need to see improved on from your guys from last series moving forward?
Well, I think we've got to rebound better. We've got to make sure we continue to take care of the ball. We had 1 out of 5 games where we had a high turnover game, so that's a really good sign. But that has to be a staple because both Memphis and Minnesota are really good at turning you over and getting out in transition. Either team, the pace is going to be really, really high, and we've got to be prepared for that.
What did you like or dislike about that small ball starting lineup?
It's small, so it's we are challenged on the glass. You have potential matchup issues defensively, but of course the flip side is you got matchup advantages offensively and speed advantages. So, I think you just have to look at it in the context of each game that you're playing. But it was great to get a look at it for the first time as a starting unit, and we're still as we've talked about, still kind of learning a lot about our team, given that we're finally healthy as we get moving in the playoffs.
Steve, kind of following up on that, how much you didn't hesitate to go to Looney, I think 4 minutes in to the game. How much does the defensive texture of that lineup change when he's in there? And it kind of got lost the other night, but his nature is such where I imagine it was no big deal for him not to start.
Yeah.
And how did you sort of navigate that? And
Loon is the ultimate pro. He's ready for every circumstance. So he stayed ready. He came in. I thought he had a great game. We knew we were going to put him in if Draymond picked up a quick foul, and it just so happened he picked up a foul 30 seconds into the game. So then we were kind of holding our breath a little bit for a few minutes as he guarded Jokic, hoping that he wouldn't pick up a second. So we let that unit run for a few minutes, then got Loon in so that Loon could take Jokic and relieve Draymond of the pressure of guarding him and picking up another foul possibly.
And related question, I guess, how different will Looney's task be no matter who you play? I mean, as we acknowledge in the Denver series, Jokic is sort of his own animal. Yeah. Does it get back to sort of being a more normal assignment for Looney going forward?
Just depends who's out there. Both Memphis and Minnesota present big challenges, unique personnel. Whichever team we end up playing, Looney will play a role and play an important role. But it's hard to compare. You got Towns as the center on Minnesota, totally different matchup than, say, Adams or Clark. So we're just trying to, keep the players ready and in condition and ready to roll, and as a staff trying to prepare for two different teams. So it's different.
When you look at where Jordan is right now as opposed to where he was when he went to the G League bubble last season, where specifically have you seen the most growth, and how huge do you think that time spent in Orlando was for him, just to kind of set the tone for the rest of his career?
Yeah, well, Jordan had really played pretty well before the bubble. There was even, some talk internally about do we keep him here. I think his last game before the bubble, he caught fire, and there were some thoughts about, well, maybe we just keep him here. And ultimately, he needed to just play in big minutes and get a ton of reps, and that's what he did. He was playing 35 minutes. I don't know how many games he played total, 12 or 13 or something. And so when he came back, I think he was just more refined and more prepared for an everyday role, and he did a hell of a job. But I think the G League is such a great training ground for players, and it was a huge factor in Jordan's growth.
A couple of the guys have, in the last couple of games, shouted out Mike's pleas for defensive engagement. How does it work with the staff, though? I mean, we know Mike is primarily dealing with the defense, but in terms of when you guys decide in game, when you're going to switch, whether you're going to go zone, boxing one, I mean, how's that decided?
So it's really up to Mike. Sometimes, we will be talking on the bench about a possible adjustment, whether it's Kenny or Chris DeMarco or me. We might just throw out, hey, this might be a good time for boxing one. What do you think, Mike? Or, whatever the scheme, the coverage is, we'll throw it at Mike. And I trust Mike to make the decision. I would say every once in a while I'll just step in and say, hey, let's do this. And Mike and I have such a good connection that we kind of both, understand each other. And so if I really want to do something, he'll feel it and he'll go with it. And if he's really, convicted about doing something different, he'll let me know and I'll feel that. And so we find our way to not necessarily a solution. I don't think there are solutions, but, a good option.
So are those decisions based mostly on your personnel that's on the floor, or on the other team's personnel that's on the floor?
Both. You know, it just it's usually a combination of the two.
All right, on Zoom, Mark Haynes, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Obviously, like, injuries are never a good thing, but since Steph has been back the last 5 games, his shooting has been, like, back to, you know, normal Steph Curry shooting. Do you think that time off when he is injured, gave him time and helped him out with his shooting?
I do. You know, I think we've seen this in the past. Last year when Steph got hurt in Houston with the tailbone when he fell back into the stands, I think he missed maybe 8 or 10 games, and then he came back and had possibly the greatest shooting month in the history of the NBA. If you look at the numbers, they were astonishing. And I think there's something to that. I think, you know, the long grind of the NBA season catches up to everybody. And the way Steph handles himself during an absence, the way he keeps his rhythm and works on his body, seems like every time he's out for a little bit, he comes back incredibly strong and goes on a tear. So it's in hindsight, you know, that could have been you know, a blessing in disguise as we headed into the playoffs.
Anthony Slater, go ahead.
Yeah, Draymond against Jokic, like, it required so much attention, one-on-one attention from Draymond in the Denver series. He should be, even if it's Minnesota, I know he'll have to guard Towns some, but you should probably be able to allow him to be like more free safety in the next series. How does that help you guys defensively, I guess, game plan when you know you can have him do a lot of different things instead of, hey, you got to just like stay on Jokic?
Well, that's what Draymond does. You know, he's maybe the best rogue defender I've ever seen. You know, sometimes it's schemed, sometimes it's not, but he has incredible instincts and feel. So Draymond has the green light to basically do whatever he wants out there. And you know, that's a powerful tool for us to have because he sees things and he disrupts offensive actions and then he's talking to the other guys on our team and he's getting them going. So he's just an incredible kind of center fielder, and it's fun when he's able to play that role and